Your phone is dying, you plug it in, and nothing. Or worse, it says charging, but 3 hours later you're still at 12%. Before you spend $100 at the Apple Store or buy your 5th charging cable this year, I need to show you something that took me exactly 45 seconds to fix. And it cost me absolutely nothing, this toothpick. This single toothpick just saved my phone. And when I showed the guy at the repair shop what I did, his face went completely blank. Because what I'm about to show you is the #1 reason phones stop charging properly. And it's something they charge anywhere from $50 to $150 to fix. The crazy part? It's not even broken. 3 weeks ago, my iPhone started doing this thing where I'd plug in the cable and it would just fall out, like the port was loose or something. Then it would only charge if I held the cable at this specific angle. You know what I'm talking about. That thing where you have to prop your phone against a book and leave it on the edge of the table and pray nobody breathes near it, because if that cable moves even a millimeter, charging stops. So I did what everyone does. I bought a new cable, $28 for the official Apple one, because I thought maybe the cheap cables were the problem. Plugged it in, an exact same issue. Then I thought, okay, maybe it's the charging brick, another $25. Still nothing. At this point, I'm $50 deep, and my phone still won't charge unless I perform some kind of ritual with it. I almost made an appointment at the Apple Store. I went on their website, I started booking it, and I saw the diagnostic fee. $89 just to look at it. And if they need to replace the charging port, that's another $150 to $300 depending on your model. I'm looking at potentially $400 to fix a phone that's not even paid off yet. But then I found something. I was scrolling through a forum at like 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and someone posted this method that repair techs apparently know about but never tell customers. Because why would they? If everyone knew this trick, repair shops would lose thousands of dollars a week. This person said they used to work at one of those mall kiosk repair places, and this was the first thing they checked before ever opening up a phone. They said 8 out of 10 slow charging problems aren't actually broken ports. It's something else entirely. Look at this port right here. This tiny little opening at the bottom of your phone. It's open to the world 24/7. You put your phone in your pocket, in your purse, in your backpack, on your desk, in your car cup holder. Every single day, this port is collecting something you can't even see. And over months or years, it builds up into a solid compressed layer that physically blocks your charging cable from making a proper connection. This is what the inside of a charging port looks like after 6 months of normal use. See all that? That's lint, dust, pocket debris, dead skin cells. It gets compressed every single time you plug in a cable. Each time you push that lightning cable or USB-C connector in, you're essentially packing this material tighter and tighter, like when you step on trash to fit more in the garbage bag. Eventually, this compressed layer gets so thick that your cable can't reach the actual charging contacts anymore. The cable looks like it's plugged in all the way, but there's a gap. A tiny gap created by compressed debris. And here's why this makes your phone charge slow or not at all. Inside that port are small metal contacts. Your cable has to physically touch these contacts to transfer power. If there's even a 1 millimeter layer of packed lint between the cable and those contacts, the connection becomes weak or intermittent. Your phone might say it's charging, but it's barely getting any power. Or it only charges when you hold it at a weird angle, because that's the only position where the cable can push through the debris just enough to make partial contact. So here's what repair shops do, and what they charge you $80 to $150 for. They take something thin and non-conductive, and they carefully clean out that port. That's it. That's the whole secret. They're not replacing anything. They're not soldering new components. They're cleaning out lint, and they charge you the same price as if they had actually replaced hardware, because you don't know any better. Now I'm going to show you exactly how to do this yourself, but first, 3 critical warnings. Number 1, you must use something that doesn't conduct electricity. Do not use a metal paperclip, do not use a safety pin, do not use a needle. If you scratch the contacts inside that port with metal, you can actually break your phone for real. Number 2, be gentle. Those contacts are delicate. We're not digging for gold here. And number 3, make sure your phone is completely powered off before you do this. Not just locked, fully shut down. Hold the power button, slide to power off. All right, phone is off. Now, I'm using a basic wooden toothpick. You can also use a plastic dental pick or a plastic toothpick. The key is that it needs to be thin enough to fit in the port, but rigid enough to scrape out compacted material. Wood is perfect because it's slightly flexible, so if you do press too hard, the toothpick will bend before you damage anything. I'm going to insert the toothpick into the port at a shallow angle, not straight down. I'm going along the bottom edge first. And immediately, look at this. Do you see that? I'm pulling out this gray fuzzy material. This is compressed pocket lint. This has been building up in here for probably a year. And it's packed in there so tight that it feels like I'm scraping out clay. This right here, this is what was stopping my phone from charging. This microscopic layer of fabric, fibers, and dust, it doesn't look like much, but when it's compressed inside that port, it's creating a physical barrier between my cable and the charging contacts. I'm going to keep going. I'm gently scraping along each wall of the port, bottom, left side, right side, and very carefully along the top. The top is where you have to be most careful because that's where the primary contacts are located on most phones. I'm using very light pressure. If you feel hard resistance, stop. You should only be removing soft material. If something feels hard and won't move, that's probably part of the actual port structure. Look at how much came out of there. This is from one phone. Imagine if you've had your phone for 2 or 3 years and never cleaned this port. It's probably packed solid. Now I'm going to take a new toothpick because this one is getting fuzzy at the tip, and I'm going to do one more pass just to make sure I got everything. Second pass. Still getting a little bit more out. Okay, I think that's pretty clean now. Now here's a pro tip that repair techs use. After you've scraped out the debris, take a can of compressed air if you have one. Hold your phone with the port facing down and give it a few short bursts. This will blow out any loose particles you loosened but didn't fully remove. You want the port facing down, so gravity helps pull the debris out rather than pushing it deeper. A few quick bursts. Don't hold the trigger down for a long continuous spray because that can push moisture into the phone. Short bursts. Good. Now let me show you the difference. Before I cleaned it, when I would plug in this cable, I could push it in about 90% of the way. But there was always this slight gap. The cable never sat completely flush. Watch what happens now. Listen to that. Did you hear it? It actually clicks into place now. That's the sound of the cable fully seating against the contacts with nothing blocking it. Before, I never got that click because the compressed lint was acting like a cushion, preventing the cable from going all the way in. Now feel this. Zero movement. Before, I could wiggle this cable like it was barely hanging on. Now, it's locked in solid. This is what a proper connection is supposed to feel like. And watch the charging indicator. Powering back on. And there it is. Charging. Not only is it charging, but look at the estimated time. Before this fix, my phone would say 5 hours to full charge. Now it's saying 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's how much of a difference this makes. The phone is finally getting the full power input it was designed to receive because the cable is making complete contact with all the charging pins. Now let me tell you why this problem is so common and why it's getting worse. Phone manufacturers have been making charging ports smaller and smaller with each generation. The original iPhone 3.0 pin connector was huge compared to Lightning, and Lightning is bigger than USB-C. As these ports get smaller, the tolerances get tighter. There's less room for error and less room for debris before it becomes a problem. Plus, we're using our phones more than ever. 10 years ago, you might have charged your phone once a day. Now, people are plugging in multiple times a day. Every single plug-in event is another opportunity to push debris deeper into that port. And modern clothes have gotten worse for this too. Synthetic fabrics shed more microfibers than natural fabrics used to. So if you're wearing polyester or fleece and your phone is in that pocket, you're essentially marinating your charging port in a lint generator. Here's what makes me frustrated about this whole situation. Phone manufacturers know this is an issue. Repair shops definitely know it's an issue because they deal with it constantly. But nobody tells you. When you call Apple support and say your phone won't charge, do they say, hey, try cleaning out your port with a toothpick? No. They run diagnostics and then tell you to bring it in, because that's revenue. I actually called an independent repair shop before I tried this fix, just to ask what they would charge. The person on the phone quoted me $75 for a charging port cleaning, or $180 for a port replacement if cleaning didn't work. I asked them how often it's actually the port that needs replacing versus just cleaning. They paused for a second and then said, honestly, probably 80 to 90% of the time it's just debris. But they still charge $75 to clean it because people are willing to pay to have their phone working again. Think about how much money is being made off this one simple problem. If a repair shop sees 20 customers a week with charging issues, and 16 of those are just dirty ports, that's $1,200 a week in revenue for 5 minutes of work per phone. That's over $60,000 a year from just this one issue. No wonder they don't advertise the solution. Now I want to show you something else. This works on pretty much every modern smartphone. iPhones, Samsung Galaxy, Google Pixel, OnePlus, whatever. They all have the same problem because they all have small exposed charging ports. Let me show you this old Samsung I have. This one has been even worse than my iPhone. It would only charge with one specific cable and only if I plugged it in upside down. I'm not even kidding. I had to flip the USB-C cable because apparently one side was making better contact than the other through all the debris. Watch what comes out of this one. Oh wow, look at this. Even more packed in there. USB-C ports are slightly wider than Lightning, so they can actually accumulate more material before you notice a problem. This is disgusting. That's probably 2 years worth of pocket lint compressed into a solid pellet. And there we go. Cleaned out. Let me test it. Perfect. Now it charges with any cable, any orientation, No special angle required. This took me maybe 2 minutes total. 2 minutes and $0 to fix what I thought was a hardware failure. Here's another thing to check while we're talking about charging problems. The cable itself. Look at your charging cable right now. Look at the end that plugs into your phone. See those little metal contacts? Run your finger over them. Do they feel smooth or do they feel rough and corroded? If they feel rough or if you can see any discoloration, that's oxidation. Over time, the metal contacts on your cable can develop a thin layer of oxidation that increases electrical resistance. This is especially common if you've ever gotten your cable wet or if you live in a humid environment. The fix for this is simple. Take a regular pencil eraser and gently rub it over the contacts. The mild abrasion from the eraser will remove the oxidation without damaging the metal. Just like this. A few gentle rubs on each contact. Then wipe away the eraser debris with a dry cloth. This can actually improve your charging speed if oxidation was part of your problem. Combine this with a clean port and you've essentially restored your charging system to like-new condition. Think about how much electronic waste this creates. How many phones are thrown away or traded in at a massive loss because someone thought the charging port was broken, when really it just needed a 30-second cleaning. This is one of those things that should be common knowledge but isn't, because there's no profit incentive in teaching people how to maintain their devices. This little stick of wood just saved me $400. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones that actually work.